Welcome to the Hamptons, an area in the east of Long Island filled with small towns and settlements, popularly known as New York's Hollywood, although that is an understatement to say the least. The Hamptons is so much more than that. It is a home for the elite personalities of society, the pride of old money families, and a muse to celebrities all over the world. But above that, the Hamptons serves as a memorandum of American history, denoting its humble beginnings through war and adversity to prosperity and affluence. This is the history of the Hamptons. It is the story of how a small English settlement became one of the most expensive places in America and by extension the world. I can't wait to tell you all about it. It all started in the 17th century with English colonists. The English coined the name Hampton from the famous Southampton of England. There wasn't much to the place back then. The Industrial Revolution had barely begun, so most people focused on agriculture and raising crops, settling in Montauk, Sag Harbor and East Harbor, and things stayed like that for close to a century. In 1796, the Montauk Lighthouse was built based on George Washington's decree to aid in navigation following the American Revolution. Moving on to the 1800s, some rich New Yorkers started to notice the inherent beauty of the place, the serenity, subtle charm, and its closeness to New York City, so they decided to move there. It was at this time that some old money family names started to pop up. They constructed impressive mansions that cemented their influence in the community. Families like the Astors, who built the resplendent Ferncliff Mansion, the Vanderbilts, who built Idle Hour, the Whitney family, who are known for their interest in art and philanthropy, the Westbury Estate and the Westbury House, not to mention the Parrish family and their work in the publishing sector, of course, the Rockefellers. These families and their social circles helped start the elitist dynamic that we have in the Hamptons today, forcing the community to expand and thrive. Although the Hamptons suffered a bit due to the Spanish-American War of 1898, but soon things started to take a turn for the better. A new age was dawning. And if you want to learn more of the old money lifestyle like this video, subscribe to our channel. At this time, the atmosphere of the Hamptons took a rather drastic turn. Sure, it still attracted wealthy families and societal elites, but now artists and writers started to recognize the Hamptons for its charm and allure. A lot of creatives found the environment soothing. They found a place where they could draw inspiration, and soon artists and writers such as William de Koenig, Jack Pollock, John Steinbeck, and Truman Capote brought their works to the Hamptons. Events such as the 1949 Guildhall exhibition showed some of the works of these artists. The early 90s saw the rise of the Bohemian era in the Hamptons, ushering a handful of bookstores and art galleries in the places all around the Hamptons. The 1960s saw the Beat generation taking over the area, as well as musicians like Bob Dylan and the Rolling Stones coming to play shows regularly at festivals and parties being thrown regularly. This was further increased with the construction of the Long Island Expressway, which made the area even more accessible. So now everyone could easily visit the Hampton. But as things went on, the Bohemian age slowly faded from the Hamptons, and things went in a different direction. This point in history focused on relaxation and dynamic cultural evolution. This is when the Hamptons became widely recognized as the New York vacation resort for the summer. It saw the rise of restaurant businesses that catered to rich taste. There was a semblance of racial diversity as well as environmental consciousness, with efforts to preserve the natural beauty of the Hamptons being made. Documentaries like The Grey Gardens came out at this time, as it centered on the Bouvier-Beale family, which basically summarizes the nature of the Hamptons at this point in history. This was also during the rise of disco and the sexual revolution, all centering on what historians would call the Me decade. And still, the Hampton stratal was further solidified for the wealthy and individuals of high social standing. If you thought the affluence was heavy before, think again. Because in the 1980s, the surge of old money families saw an influx in the Hamptons, but that's not all. This period also saw the semblance of successful business owners and corporate titans. The place started to attract celebrities from the entertainment, fashion and arts industry. You see, thanks to the economic surge of the Reagan era, which ushered in tax cuts and removed business restrictions, allowing more and more small businesses to flourish. The Hamptons saw an influx in clothing stores and restaurants, some of which were catered to the more affluent members of the community. There was also a rise in country clubs such as the Maidstone Club and the Southampton Beach Club, because areas were perfect for club activities, with large areas of land for a golf course, a natural landscape, and a wealthy clientele, which helped to provide an appropriate milieu for the aristocratic social scene. More celebrities dropped in, such as Warner chairman Steve Ross, director Steven Spielberg, and even actor Alec Baldwin, singer Kim Basinger, and Jerry Seinfeld, not forgetting Calvin Klein, who later bought the Henry DuPont mansion in 2001 for under $30 million and repurposed and sold it in 2019 for a whopping $84 million. The Hamptons garnered more popularity as time progressed, and thanks to its large number of celebrities, it was declared the Hollywood of the East. The streets and neighborhoods of the Hamptons started to change as well, with new houses being built and property prices going through the roof. As the years passed, any family who couldn't afford to live in the Hamptons had to move, leaving the area mostly populated by a wealthy community. There is a phenomenon known as nostalgic modernity, whereby old trends and antiquated mannerisms start to resurface and gain popularity. The 1990s saw a rise of nostalgic modernity in the Hamptons, whereby its denizens sought a less contemporary feel and preferred a relatively old-fashioned feel of the Hamptons. The inhabitants longed for the bohemian age, and it was clearly reflected in the community. With artists and other creatives moving to the Hamptons and the renovation of the Sag Harbor Whaling Museum and Guild Hall of East Hampton, these artists and performers could find solace and a platform to showcase their work in the region. At this time, you'll find celebrities like Ross Bleckner, Edward Albee, Joan Woodward, and Paul Newman all making strides in the Hamptons. Another indication was the desire for natural meals known as farm-to-table cuisines, as opposed to the fast food and chain restaurant methods, with restaurants like The Living Room growing famous for their conservative efforts and use of natural ingredients. This period also saw the members of the community taking extra measures to protect the environmental and natural integrity of the Hamptons. In the 2010s, the divide between the rich and the poor couldn't be further emphasized. The gap was intense, and the Hamptons helped to delineate that fact. With more and more rich people swooping in, rich millennials were starting to find their way there, like Chris Hughes, the Facebook co-founder, and even billionaires like Roman Abramovich bought a house in the Hamptons. This was all because the Hamptons had blown up, with reality shows and movies being used to glorify the Hamptons. This meant that owning a house in the Hamptons was a clear show of your status and how well you were doing in life. This was how the Hamptons moved from humble riverside settlements to a community for the rich and powerful. In recent years, the denizens aren't so concerned with soirees and festivals as in the times past. Nowadays, most people in the Hamptons are concerned with the gym and exercise classes, as well as carrying out expensive shopping and just relaxing on the beach. The beaches in the Hamptons are some of the best to visit in the summer, with Main Beach in East Hampton being one of the most preferred. Although there are other beaches such as Cooper's Beach and Havens Beach, all holding on to and maintaining the Hampton charm that has attracted people throughout history. Nowadays, a median home in the Hamptons is sold at an average of $1.6 million, and a house in East Hamptons cost upwards of $3 million, and these are just for mid-ranged homes. It all contributes to the intrinsic value that is found in the area time and time again. Anyone who has lived in the Hamptons often talks about witnessing an intoxicating feeling that can only be described as the magic of the Hamptons.